I'll just sing you some Brandi. Hang on, just hang on for a minute. I've got something to say. I'm not asking you to move on or forget it. These are better days. Oh, you're coming back. Shh.
Are you just singing things that require...
I'm just singing.
that require clearance?
Yeah, that's... Sure.
So, hello. Welcome to Cyborg vs. Robot. I am 5, pseudo-robot, and nitrogen-free explosive.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I am Christa, and I'm a cyborg. The cyborg of Cyborg vs. Robot.
So, I told you earlier this week that I've been stopping telling you things so that I could tell you in person while we're recording.
Yeah? Have you been saving some big news?
Yeah, I've been asked by a friend of mine to MC her wedding. My friends Tanya and Dan are getting married at the end of September, and I have to figure out how to MC a wedding.
Oh, that'll be fun.
She has not heard this podcast.
So you're just going to make a lot of Real Humans references.
Yeah, she said to me, she says, "Oh, you're funny and you're doing that podcast thing. I'm sure you can talk in front of people."
Oh, this is your new credential for public speaking? This is
my new credential for public speaking.
I'm so glad that this is coming in handy, or this is branching out into other parts of your life.
Yeah, so the question I have for you is, how much should I charge?
Well, now that you do have a podcast,
yeah.
I mean, I think that...
this will be 6 episodes, this one? Because we're doing... I don't even remember the name of this episode. I didn't write it down.
Power at Heart.
And this is with a new director, right?
This is directed by Levin Aiken. First aired February 12th, 2012. And you know, we haven't mentioned... You've always mentioned the directors, but have we mentioned that each episode has been written by Lars Lindstrom, the series creator?
No, because he writes everything. It's the whole thing is his...
But that's unusual. Most series have multiple writers, and he's the sole writer credit on every episode.
Well, that doesn't mean he's the only writer on staff.
True.
Because... like David Milch, who wrote Deadwood.
Yeah.
I think he was credited as being the writer for all episodes. I know, and the guy who wrote True Detective. I don't know his name offhand. Nick something, I think.
That guy.
I think. So I don't think it's terribly unusual.
I don't think it's unusual, but I think it's... Well, see, now I'm going to make statements that I can't back up. The impression that I hold at this moment in time is that most series have multiple writers. Still, usually only one writer per episode, and the arc of a season might be discussed, and of course is discussed over like lots of meetings. But that one person writes each episode. But at least the entire first season is written by Lars. Is credited to be written by Lars. But so maybe we never need to mention the writer because it's just always him.
Yeah, I don't think we do. He's doing a good job.
Great job. I actually started trying to find the series that he wrote and created and directed before this, called Labyrinth.
Oh.
Have you looked at that?
No, not at all. Do you know anything about it?
No, I can't find anything other than the IMDb listing, which has no photos, no synopsis.
But it was a TV series.
Yep.
We also watched Terminator.
We did.
1984 James Cameron film.
We did, because I had not seen it, as you pointed out in the last episode of Cyborg vs. Robot, because of the whole Skynet thing.
Yeah, which now you understand.
Well, I already forgot.
Well, Skynet is the computers take over the networks and take over the world.
Oh,
basically.
right.
And we know that the Hubots aren't connected up to a network. They have to make cell phone calls, and they have to connect to the internet
and dating sites in order to communicate.
Yeah, and they're USB ports. Like if they connected themselves to the computer, I guess they don't. I guess that won't work. Like it's not a two-way Like, they can't hook up to the internet through their USB ports.
They can't, like, sync their iTunes through their USB port.
Oh, that would be...
Do you think they could charge, like, their own cell phone through their USB? Like, if they have power, because...
Well, they do
plug
mention
into, like, AC.
That, I believe Vera, they have mentioned that she comes with a charging station. So you could charge your phone.
Yeah, I do remember that new models were going to have, like, other ways that you could plug in your things. Yeah.
So, I don't know that we've seen that happen, though. We haven't seen anybody hand somebody their phone fully charged.
Thanks to their Hubot. You're right, we haven't. That might be happening.
I think if I had a Hubot, I would...
You'd be like,
one of the features I would want would be my music library. If I'm taking my Hubot to the beach,
right?
I would want them to be able to play my favorite songs.
Wouldn't you already just have them on your iPhone? Or it's like, you'd be like, oh, my iPhone's full of all my not favorite songs. My Hubot has my favorite songs at all times.
Think of how much memory I could free up on my phone if my Hubot had all of the songs.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. I wonder what the sound system would be like. Because
yeah, would Hubot, like, onboard speakers be good quality? Would it just come out of their mouth? Would they lip sync?
Oh, I would hope they would lip sync. But it would be mono recordings. So all of your music would be like this podcast. Recorded in mono, not stereo.
Right.
Maybe it would change music. Music would just go back to being mono.
Maybe.
So you could have your Hubot. Yeah. I'm liking this idea. Anything else?
So that's your big news? That's exciting. You're going to do great.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Tanya and I met... we met a couple of times, and then I think the third time we ever were hanging out together, we went on a road trip.
Oh, yeah?
And the rest of the people who were going to come with us on the road trip canceled. Not quite last minute, but pretty close to. I had already booked time off of work, and so had she. So we just decided we were going to go anyway.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we did. It was beginning of a great friendship.
Road trips are a solid way to get to know someone.
Yeah, and she is my pseudo stepsister because of a long, complicated story that we told strangers during this long weekend.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's fun. And we always get up to no good when we're together, so...
Yay.
Her wedding may not happen because Tanya and I will be hanging out the night before, and I feel like it's going to be much like Bridesmaids or,
yeah.
or The Hangover.
Oh, my. So you're really going to get up to no good.
We could get up to no good.
Marvelous.
Yeah, it's going to be much like that. I also saw Sin City, A Dame to Kill For the other night.
How was that?
It looks beautiful in 3D. It's a kind of not a very interesting movie. And it fails the Bechdel test.
Okay.
Like, severely. It also has, in the first movie, Jessica Alba plays a stripper with a heart of gold who doesn't take her clothes off. And that is okay. In this movie, she still plays a stripper. And it's done like as a prequel and a sequel, and it's very confusing. That doesn't work well at all. She still doesn't take her clothes off, but Eva Green is in this movie, and she is naked for, I think, every minute she's on screen.
Really?
Which, when you juxtapose that with the scenes in the stripper bar and no one takes their clothes off, and then you go right from that to very naked Eva Green, it's weird. Yeah. But you don't need to see that movie. That's all. What have you been doing?
Not seeing movies, other than when we watched Terminator. What have I been doing? I was running around seeing lots of people this week. I did go and see Union Duke, who are kind of my favorite band this week. Super folky, rootsy Americana, 5 young, cute boys playing banjo and harmonica and fiddle and great harmonies and very energetic and just incredibly charismatic. It was very enjoyable. So they were playing in St. James Square.
I
gazebo.
Yeah.
Which felt so far east, because here I am new to Toronto, and I think I'm a West End girl.
Yeah.
And I'm figuring out how what happens on the other side of young. And as I was coming home, I got on a streetcar, and I kind of got distracted. I was texting or something, and I had this moment of like, oh shit, have I missed my stop? And I looked up, and it was like, next stop, John Street. I was like, what? I'm not even close to home.
No.
Keep going. Streetcar onwards.
I think
Yeah, no, I was like almost lost over there. I mean, it looks very similar to the west side, so I was like, I'm still in Toronto, but I'm a long way from home.
I don't think that's unusual. I think that of other big cities I've been to, people don't leave their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
When your neighborhood has a lot of things, like restaurants that you like, bars that you like, you just stop going.
You just live in the village. You live in your little zone. And I realized I've already fallen into that pattern.
Yeah, and if you move to the East End, you will lose all of your friends in the West End.
Shit.
You just have to get new friends.
No.
Because they won't come to your house anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm not moving to the East End.
Oh, well then there you go. It's
not anytime soon.
Did you like Terminator? We didn't talk about it.
Did I like Terminator?
Some of the effects don't hold up.
The effects are cheesy. I think Sarah Connor is a bit of a twat in this film. I get that she is, you know, my impression of the second film from what I kind of remember from seeing the trailer.
Yeah, well, we're going to watch the second film.
We're going to watch the second film. Yeah. I know that she's a bit of a badass and becomes a stronger character. She's sort of a weak character in the first Terminator.
Well, she doesn't know that she's
just kind of swooning over the guy. And
we can have spoilers about Terminator because it was made in 1984.
Yeah.
That is 30 years ago.
Is it 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So...
And everyone's seen it. I mean, this is the thing. I had to see it.
Yeah, you haven't seen anything.
Because everyone has seen it. I did like Terminator. I think it's kind of a terrible film, but enjoyable. Like, I get the appeal. And I get that it's part of, again, it's an important cultural reference. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. Shout out Tara, because apparently she listens, so that's nice. Thanks, buddy. And Tara is like a pop culture sponge. I mean, she knows all the films and all the bands, and often will be like, so what did you think of the Mini Pops? And I will be like, I had a very sheltered childhood. I think I remember being at like a birthday party and there was a cassette tape of the Mini Pops, and I sort of had a sense when I looked at it that I was really missing out on something. Not necessarily them, but like a whole world. And then I would just go home and listen to my mom's like Carole King records. But that's just an example that through my entire life, I feel like I'm not super tuned in to more popular culture. Because for me, they're like, to quote Corn Raymond, there will always be a small time, and I feel pretty strong about the small time. So
who are you quoting?
Corn Raymond.
I don't know who that is.
See what I mean? You should know who that is.
It's just different exposure to different things.
Yeah. But I tend to be exposed to things that happen on a smaller scale.
Right, like local things.
Yeah.
And
Corn Raymond has been playing at the Cameron House every Thursday for 10 years. He's a great musician.
I feel like I should know that then.
Yeah.
So you don't know Terminator.
So I know that shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know things. I'm like, I haven't seen Sin City. What's that? Mm-hmm. So, maybe kind of hopeless over here, this one. Right. But then I have people like you and Tara to tell me what's up.
Well, I wanted when I was showing you Terminator, we considered skipping Terminator 1 and going straight to Terminator 2.
Right.
Because it is a way better film, but we did not. Instead, we watched the cheesy.
No, I'm glad I saw it. I wanted to see it.
And I also showed you the trailer for the Antonio Banderas film. Yeah. Which Automata.
Banderas says, and he's in it. Like he's not the
he's not
writer directed.
No, his star vehicle.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the name of the director who did it, but it explores very similar themes too.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see it.
And every cyborg robot show probably ever.
Yeah.
Where they all just explore these same themes.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
That comes out in October. We're going to go.
We are totally going to go. Shall we talk about the episode?
Oh, sure. It's funny because speaking of like awareness around pop culture or what have you, with my friend, another friend of mine this week who has listened to the podcast was like, what's this show? Like, why does everyone know about this show except me? I was like, no.
It's not true.
It's not just you. Don't. But she thought because we're making this podcast about it that she's like missing out on something that is widely known. So it's just all how you frame it.
My friend Kate, who has seen all of season 1, we were discussing some of the episodes, and she was very careful not to spoil any of the upcoming episodes. But she did have a couple of points about this show where she felt that the show didn't take any opportunities to end episodes on a cliffhanger note. And this episode being the one that she said could have ended right before the explosion, which happens at the end. And save that for the next episode. So you don't know if the explosion happens, you don't know. Like, there's a little bit of that feeling of the cliffhanger aspect, but it's not quite as powerful as it might have been. Like a ticking clock, kind of.
I don't know. I don't think that would have been a strong ending. I liked the ending of this episode. It does leave you in a moment of anticipation. Something's about to happen.
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. We'll talk.
We'll get there?
We'll get there.
We could start at the ending.
That'd be weird.
Okay, so Real Humans, Season 1, Episode 5. The cold open is hot. No, it's not hot open.
I gotta find my... I gotta find my notes for this episode because
you're not detailed notes? Well, the episode opens with Rick and... Oh, look, I wrote down Pilar. Rick is not fucking Pilar.
No.
Actually, we don't know who's fucking. The episode opens with Rick and Teresa having sex. Noisily. Much to Kevin's chagrin in the next room because he's sitting there listening to his mother do it.
If there's ever a time for headphones.
I know. It's like, Kevin. Headphones, pillow.
Yeah.
Midnight stroll.
Anything.
Don't just sit there and feel awkward. No one wants to hear that.
No, I don't think anyone wants to hear their parents have sex ever.
With a robot.
Especially with a robot.
Or ever.
It's basically like hearing one of your parents pull out a sex toy.
Except this sex toy has like a giggle at the end. They finish and then Rick is like, ha ha ha, and then they're like, and then, oh wait, see now I can't remember when it cuts to the opening. No, I do.
Do you think Rick vibrates?
I think he's ribbed for her pleasure.
Do you?
Well, he's certainly ripped. Like, whoever that actor.
He's a fit fellow.
He is a fit fellow. And so then they have a little post-coital plug-in. She reaches over and takes his charger and plugs him in and turns on the TV.
That's like his cigarette after.
Guess so. Spent.
Yeah, you're going to need charging after that.
Sure. And
I guess he's probably good to go again right away, too. We don't know how they could have done it a bunch of times.
And on the TV is this news story about a Hubot who is the same model as Rick. And Rick looks up and sees that this Hubot looks exactly like him.
He says, yeah, it's the same as me. And we find out it's Ova Holm of eHerb is being interviewed by a newspaper reporter, and it was an attempted rape, which is a little creepy after the post-sex scene. Mm-hmm. And Holm insists that the unit was not defective. And
the interviewer says, is it possible that Hubots were causing harm? And he says, it's unlikely. And
they ask about rogue Hubots.
Yeah, and Therese is disquieted, turns it off.
Which makes sense if you're seeing your partner on the television being hauled away and recycled.
Yeah.
Because of an attempted rape. And they're not broken. I don't know why she wouldn't take him in for a servicing right away.
Take in Rick?
Yeah, just to get him checked out. Or to at least
I don't know if she would do that now that she's having modified.
But go back to Hubot Heaven and go,
can you make sure he's not a rapist?
Yeah, just have him looked at, or just call to alleviate a few fears.
I don't know if they have like a number for that. But yeah, I mean, through this episode and as she's watching that scene, she has a few moments of like, just a couple little moments, not maybe of doubt, but of sort of a watchful, okay, like, things are changing. What's happening?
I might remove the sex chip from under the USB port.
You would? If that were you?
If the Hubot, the attempted rape Hubot is on the television.
But she doesn't know, I mean, she knows that she's modified Rick, and just because the Hubot, the fitness model, has been found in the woods and reportedly might have attacked someone, she has no idea who that Hubot. Huba.
Yeah.
I'm going to call them Hubas.
Hubas?
It rhymes with tuba.
All right, well, I would be worried about a recall.
Recall.
Yeah, I'd be looking up, I'd be going to websites and seeing if that unit had been recalled.
Okay. You're a conscientious consumer.
I would want a press release from the Miyake Labs, who makes the Hubot. I'd want a press release from them.
Mm-hmm. That's wise. That's how you would respond. We don't see that really from Therese. We see her feeling a bit nervous, but we don't see her taking action.
Right.
And that's our cold open.
Oh yeah, and then the show starts.
So with this episode, normally, I said this to you earlier, when I take notes, I tend to group them by character. And this time, that was difficult because things are now really overlapping, and I couldn't just be like, and this is this character, because they're weaving into each other's scenes and different things are happening. So following, maybe it's the next morning, we have a breakfast scene, and Rick, I find Rick creepy now, but also funny. I mean, he's cocky, and his sort of carefully tousled hair, he's got a new look, he's wearing the white robe, he's sitting at the table.
Yeah,
and
the terry cloth robe.
That's right. It looks like someone stole from a Four Seasons or something.
A very nice hotel. That is a stolen robe from a very nice hotel. I don't think Roger would ever wear...
No, that is not...
He would wear a threadbare...
flannel,
which somehow has tomato sauce on it, because he's eaten...
From one night when he was eating pizza.
Yeah.
In his robe. So Kevin gets up to go to school, and Teresa jumps up and gives him I love you and have a good day, and Rick stands up and makes this grand gesture. Kev. Like, you're right here, buddy.
I did like the morning conversation that Rick tries to have with Kevin, and he's like, hey Kev, what's the capital of Ethiopia? And Kev basically responds with, go fuck yourself, a Stan, or something similar. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the Swedish equivalent
and Rick is like, incorrect.
It's Addis Ababa.
And then Teresa gets this text about potential media interviews, and that Inger has messaged her saying, if anything comes up, just refer to me. And Rick perks up, and he's like, media?
Yeah.
And she goes to explain to him. She's like, oh yeah, like cameras, interviews. And he touches her arm, and he's like, I know what media is. Pat, pat.
Not a lot happens.
I'm worried about those two lovebirds. I don't know.
Well, this episode really, for Rick, is just showing us how his character has changed. He gets a little more sex crazed. Mm-hmm. Or he just really wants to have sex a lot. Mm-hmm. Because they try and buy him some new clothes. Yep.
So they go to the Hubot Mart, and he doesn't want Hubot clothes. And she says, but you are a Hubot. He goes, but these are for regular Hubots. He wants to go shopping in other stores. So they're trying on shirts. He's feeling pretty pleased.
Well, there's a bit of innuendo in the Hubot Mart store, which doesn't come across terribly well. But the reason that they go to the Hubot Mart to buy clothes, which is a terrible setup, they walk right into the middle of the floor displays. I would think they would have a separate section
off for the clothing.
Side,
yeah, there's just this one clothing rack with 5 shirts, more than 5. But
this is Sweden too. This is where IKEA is from. I would think they know how to set up a store with displays. You walk through.
There's little arrows on the floor.
Little arrows on the floor.
All the stores in Sweden have them.
And then you go to the place near the registers where they have all of the shelves.
But the best reason for taking them, well, there's a couple reasons for taking them to Hubot Mart first, in that he once again encounters another Rick model. That he's walking by and he sees the fitness model standing there like lifting weights, and at first he's like, wait a minute. He kind of eyes this other Rick model, gives him a little once over, and then smiles and walks away.
I took that as he looks at him and goes, yeah, I'm not you.
Yeah.
You
Oh, no, I
are-
think he kind of looks at him. He's like, oh, yeah, that guy. Like, I've grown. I'm beyond that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is very self-assured, new Rick.
New Rick is very self-assured.
So what was the innuendo?
So the innuendo is when Teresa says, we need to get you these shirts because they have the access. You can take your cord out.
Right, so I guess the shirts have a hole in them.
Yeah, under the arms, you can pull out the cord and plug it in. And Rick says to Teresa something along the lines of, you can take my cord out anytime you want, baby.
Right.
Which the translation didn't quite catch that, but I
you're
think
right.
that was...
This is part of his new tone.
Yeah.
Because a lot of his... Yeah, at breakfast, he's like, I need to charge extra. Like, because he's plugged in and he might overcharge, which we now know kind of gives Hubots a bit of a buzz.
Yeah.
He makes that comment there. And then when they go to the clothing store and he tries on the shirt, he's like, is it a good fit? He's like, you fit me. There's all of... Most things he says are...
Now loaded with innuendo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does much else happen with him?
Well, also while he's trying on the shirt, they start to fool around, and Teresa gets nervous, and she's like, "I said no," and when no means no, and I think because that scene the news clip that she saw has sort of planted a bit of nervousness in her about his eagerness, and they show him getting a hard on, which I thought was funny. They're like, "Oh, that's the
and
same."
he comments on it.
Yeah.
He does say to her, I'm getting hard for you.
Yep.
Teresa's buying his stuff, and he picks out some sunglasses.
Yeah, and she gets a phone call.
She does. And I love the sales guy behind the counter of the store. He reminds me of every sales guy in every shopping department store I've ever been in the men's section.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, he's got a plaid shirt and a bow tie and like braces, like suspenders. A very flamboyant but stylish man, and
compared to what Beau is buying, what he's wearing is a very different aesthetic.
it is different. Yeah, a terribly different aesthetic.
Yeah, later on we just see the same gray shirt that he tried on that we see him try on,
and he does get the sunglasses, which I think is interesting because he's disguising his Hubot eyes, and he tries to tell the salesperson, "We'll take this as well."
Well, it's interesting because the salesperson saying, no, you have to ask her, she's in charge. And at the same time, then with this phone call and the exchange after, there's a power shift happening between Teresa and Rick. Inger calls Teresa saying, there's this interview opportunity. Do you want to do it? Teresa says, no, can you ask Pilar and Beau? And Rick, like, as soon as he hears this chance, she hangs up and he's like, you said no? Like, why would you say no? And she says, I'm not comfortable. I don't want to do it. And he says, this is what I want the most of all. Like, his dream is, like, he's suddenly a camera whore. Like, he's like, he wants to be on camera. She says, people will recognize us everywhere he go. Which he very unfairly turns, which he very
how about quite? He quite unfairly.
Which Rick unfairly turns on her and says, you're that embarrassed of me? So manipulative. Yeah. And then they do the interview. It cuts to this shot of them sitting on a couch and the camera is flashing. And
because leading up to this in the episode, we see a bit of Inger dealing with the new court case. We see only a tiny bit of Beau and Pilar when the club ambassador tries to settle with Teresa and
tries to come up with a
Pilar
compensation, which they refuse.
They just refuse.
Where does Pilar work? She gets the phone call at work, and at first I was like, "Is this I was like, part of it made me think she was at a hospital or a bowling alley.
I thought bowling alley as well.
But there's like little cubicles. I wanted to ask you. There's a guy standing there with his hand on bananas.
Is that what that is? I don't know.
I thought
it was a very weird scene.
Where Pilar gets the phone call, I was like...
I don't care if it's not bananas.
What?
I like the idea that there's a guy just sitting in the background smirking.
Well, there's a guy like at a cash register and the shot pans to the left as she walks across. And then there's a guy... I couldn't place where she worked.
She works at a very small food co-op. And that man was returning bananas.
He might have been. He was not pleased.
He bought his organic bananas, and they weren't organic enough.
Right.
So he's returning them. He's waiting she works at the complaint desk at a Whole Foods.
That's believable. when she gets the phone call with the offer, she says, we're not whores. They're refusing to take the cash settlement. They are going to go to court.
Which seemed the whole purpose of that guy holding the bananas in the background was just to react to her saying in Spanish,
yeah, she throws
we're not a bunch of whores.
Yeah.
Not
That's
much
the
else
Rick
goes on.
thing.
And the Inger thing, really.
And the Inger thing. I mean, as far as the conversation she's having at the law firm, which also...
It's just exposition. It's just filling us back in on things we already know.
But Henning, like, takes the case away from her again. He makes this... She says,
doesn't take the case away. He says, we're offering them the settlement, and I will call them.
Yeah. And then he says, when they refuse the settlement, he says, do they know how much this is going to cost? And she's like, the contract you wrote says that we're covering it. Meanwhile, in this
scene... But he's willing to run with it. He's willing to run
with it, yeah. No, he still feels...
He's not mad at Inger.
Did you notice how big Inger's hair was in a lot of these scenes? Like, her hair is really big.
I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it to the extent that you are seeming to notice it.
It actually, like, unnerved me. Hold on. I'm gonna...
You found pictures?
No, well, I had this moment last night where I was like, this is not okay. Like, she suddenly has, like, a beehive. That's big hair.
Do you know what works really well in podcasts?
Showing my co-host photos. You're going to cut this out.
Showing pictures.
We can make the iPhone photo I took of my laptop available online.
Maybe we'll have that be the screenshot for the episode.
Perfect.
We see Carl, our intelligence guy, gets introduced. I don't think much happens with him, though.
No, but the first scene after the opening credits is with Carl and Jonas, and Carl is questioning Jonas. And right away in this scene, I was like, wait, what? Who? What's happening? Jonas's dad died? Jonas's dad knows David Eicher? Does Jonas know David Eicher? Like, there was suddenly in that scene, a lot of questions came up.
The one thing that's new that we learn is that David Eicher is rumored to have written code that will make Hubots autonomous. Mm-hmm. I wrote down the note, worried about Skynet. They're basically worried about Hubots.
Skynet from Terminator, is that what you're referencing?
Yes.
Oh.
I don't think you need to say it from Terminator.
Shit.
It's a 30-year-old film.
Great, yeah.
Do you know what Jedis are?
No comment.
No comment. It is explained that if these Hubots get this code where they can become autonomous, they are basically more intelligent, stronger.
He says machines running wild who are more intelligent than we are, and that the code will spread. And you can imagine how dangerous this is. Jonas is playing dumb. Carl shows him a photo of the tattoo that the Escher spawn have, and he's like, nope, don't know it, haven't seen that.
So our intelligence officer leaves, and...
But we also learn that Jonas's father was murdered, and that Jonas's
his father was found dead.
His father was found dead, and that his father must have known David Eicher, and Jonas says they weren't the best of friends. They were just both in the Hubot biz, maybe. Maybe Jonas came to Hubot Market through a family line of work, I don't know. But he's not just a salesman.
It will reveal itself. So he must own the Hubot Mart.
Maybe that's what it is. So as soon as Carl leaves, Jonas jumps up and he's digging through the files and he's looking for the info on Mimi. And he goes in the back and he makes a phone call and says to someone like, no more, I'm not buying any more Hubots without the proper paperwork. Like, he's been rattled. As far as our new character, Carl, the only other time we see him is in a parking lot when he approaches Ove, our detective, our e-herb detective, and says, I'm from intelligence and I need everything you've got, even the trash, and on the Hubot murder case.
I guess the rest of the storylines overlap.
They sure do.
Pretty heavily. I don't think there's anything that doesn't overlap. No, the other storyline that doesn't overlap is Matilda and Mimi.
Yeah, we get to see a lot of Matilda in this episode for the first time.
Which is great.
Yeah, she's great.
She discovers in this episode that Anita is in fact Mimi.
Yeah.
Because she stays home sick from work.
Yep.
She calls in sick to work and gets the Inger mom conversation where her mom says, they're replacing humans with Hubot labor. Mm-hmm. You might want to think about going to school. Matilda is like, Mom, I'm sick. Just leave me alone.
Yeah. There's a couple of good little parental moments. That moment.
Yeah.
And then later when she lies to Hans about studying. And he has this, like, proud... He's like, oh, you're studying.
Yeah.
Stupid Hans.
He is. He's pretty gullible.
There's not much of Hans in this episode, but for the most part, anytime we see him, he's always a bit bewildered. Poor Hans. So Matilda is at first... Matilda's always been sort of like, ugh, Mimi, what a pain. And even when this conversation starts, she's like, you don't think. You just calculate. And Anita is like, no, I think. And then Matilda says, what I mean is you don't feel.
Well, she does ask her to explain... She explains what she means by thinking, and that it's calculations, and she calls Anita a calculator.
Yeah.
And then says, now explain what I just said back to me.
Yeah, and she's
so
like...
I know you understand.
She's basically she's kind of being annoyed with Anita and saying, what's creepy about you is you're so fucking content. Like, why don't you ask for anything? And what do you want? And where did you come from? And then she's like, ugh, and she takes her cereal and she's going to leave the room.
Yeah.
And
what's that tattoo about?
Yeah. And then Anita says, I have no access to the memories before I became Anita, but unfamiliar images flash by. And that grabs Matilda's interest. She gets out the old clunky tablet.
And Anita steers her through the settings.
Yep, because she says your old system's intact, and Anita says 32% of my memory is occupied by data I cannot access.
Yeah. We learn Anita's model number.
Do we?
PhD 121 C4XFE.
Huh, that's good to know.
And
are you keeping track of all of these numbers somewhere?
They all weigh the same. All the Hubots.
Okay, they all weigh the same.
But
what I would like to see from you...
Oh, it's a list of all the Hubot.
Yeah, on my desk by Monday.
I will put that on your desk.
Thank you. You could just email me.
And she has GPS built in too. So we know what neighborhood. Who cares? No one cares. I care.
So, Anita talks Matilda through this setup and gets to the point where there's a warning and she clicks continue.
Well, we also learn a little bit about Hans.
Oh!
Through the password reveal. They flip through the manual.
And Hans has just written it on a piece of paper in the back, and it's Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Do you think he's like a Beatles fan?
I don't know where the Liverpool would come from.
It's a city.
I do know what Liverpool is.
Okay, great.
I'm familiar with Liverpool. I've been there.
Oh, good. Me too.
Yeah. Did you go to the Cavern Club?
You know, I didn't. I got into town, had dinner, played a show, and left right after it. I was like in Liverpool for 4 hours. But it was one of the nicest shows I've ever played in England.
I don't remember much from when I went there. I took the ferry across the Mersey with a relative of mine who snuck us on the boat, and he'd run us around so we would hide from the ticket collectors. It was cute, and I bought some Beatles memorabilia from the Cavern Club, which I no longer have.
So that's fair.
Yeah.
Are you a Beatles fan?
Yeah, I think it's weird when people say they're not Beatles fans. It's so ever present in people's lives that I think it's understandable that you just don't need to hear it ever again. And I went through a long time until the Beatles albums were remastered a little while ago, and I listened to them all again for the first time and just really, really enjoyed them. Paul McCartney could play some bass.
He's a talented guy.
You might even say he was an ace of bass. We're off track. Hans's password is Liverpool, and Anita comes with a CD for installing.
Right, little CD-ROM.
Which I don't know, like, can you even get CD installation discs now? I guess in 2012.
You still could in 2012.
Yeah, you can't get an installation disc now. So new Hubots probably do not come with CDs or DVD installation discs.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matilda hits continue on Anita.
And suddenly Mimi is back.
And the interface on the iPad thing is different too.
Yeah, it shows the David Escher logo. And Mimi is startled. Where am I? Who are you? Where are the others? Where's Leo?
I found it unusual that she asks where she is because she has GPS. She should know where she is. And I love Matilda's answer to where am I?
You're here.
You're here.
Where am I? Here.
Where's here?
She goes, do you want an address?
Here, yeah.
Matilda manages to calm her down fairly quickly, saying, you're safe here. We can help you. We bought you in a Hubot Mart. I don't know where you were before that. You were sold to us. What are you talking about?
Whoever had you probably sold you.
And she said, they didn't sell me.
And she's feisty.
She's feisty. It's kind of nice because we don't know Mimi's character at all. We see her in the flashbacks, and in all the flashbacks, she seems very Hubot-y.
Yes.
She doesn't seem to have sort of a personality that has developed yet. Except the very first time we saw her in the very first episode where she seemed to have a personality.
Yeah, this is her first personality.
So this is the first time we see a bit of her, and she seems like she's strong. She's like, where's Leo? I gotta go. Who are you?
I've wondered when some of these actors have taken these roles, playing the very dry Hubots. Some of them are getting like, you're going to be playing really boring character for 6 episodes, and then
they're not boring. I think it'd be fun, and to maintain the physicality.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. I'm gonna try it.
To be a Hubot?
Yeah, I'm gonna act like a Hubot.
Try it at your next job. It'll probably go over really well.
Call me Pamela, the Hubot temp. I think it will. So,
Mimi does know that the last time that she recalls where she was in a forest.
Yeah, she says, the house we went to charge at, I need to get back there, and...
She's ready to walk out the door until Matilda is like, there is a lot of forest in Sweden.
She says, do you know how much forest there's in Sweden? She goes, not exactly.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, because she has GPS, but not Wikipedia.
Oh, I always took that when she said not exactly, she means that information has not been recorded by anywhere on the internet.
Oh. I think it probably has.
I think when she means that she can do square miles, but not down to the square centimeter.
Okay.
That's
what you...
She can do square kilometers because they do metric.
They do.
In Sweden. So she can do square kilometers, but not down to the square centimeter.
All right.
Hans comes home.
Matilda, they sneak through apparently there's 2 doors in Tobey's bedroom that are both glass. They sneak through some other door. They go upstairs. Matilda says she's studying, and then she tries to switch Mimi back to Anita because she's like, we'll deal with this later.
Yeah. Until
the end of the episode when she is like, okay, let's do this.
I think the next time we see them, it's near the end of the episode.
Scene, yeah.
But let's get back to that later and talk about...
Like in 2 hours from now.
2 hours from now.
When we're still talking.
We're on the last story line because everything else overlaps.
Okay. How are we going to do this?
Well, it's the plan for blowing up the Hubot Mart comes into effect. And we see... They basically give... Malta and B give a list of chemicals.
I knew you were going to read that list.
I did. They're all crazy restricted explosives.
Are they?
And crazy restrictive chemicals. Every single one of them is...
intense.
Yeah. Used in detonators for nuclear bombs, in making plastic explosives, landmines. I know I wrote down somewhere that Roger's office has the worst security. That's really shitty security.
Yeah.
To have all of these chemicals.
He just grabs a key and goes into the
they're
room.
in a locked room, but there's no...
The key is accessible. I know where that key is now. I can just walk in there and get that key.
It's in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
There's a little key to unlock the lockbox, to get the key, to go into the room which has...
all of these chemicals.
Extremely.
So he gets them. That happens.
Yeah.
He gets a giant mug.
There's a little bit where they're giving the list. I don't know if you caught this because it was very quick, but there's some footsie playing.
Yeah.
B plays footsie with
he
Roger.
Doesn't. B. I thought you said he.
B.
I thought you said he plays footsie with Roger.
Beatrice plays footsie with Roger to...
she does.
She's manipulating him into getting these explosives.
And maybe something around his house.
I found it very convenient that had they not met Roger...
Right, had they not met Roger, they wouldn't have had
access to these chemicals.
But maybe that's just a very happy coincidence. But she's manipulating him so that he'll get the explosives, so that he'll be the one to take the bomb inside. Because she's the one that suggests that later. And that maybe she can use his house for other things, because later when she's there with Niska, she's like, give me a week, and you can come here.
Right.
So she's just trying to have him at the ready, like that he'll respond to her.
Well, we do get a little bit of an indication that B is going to off Malta and...
Yeah, she says, I'll take care of the other one.
Set up Roger, or expects Roger to die in the explosion.
It's not that he's responding unfavorably to her flirting, but he's
perplexed by it.
He's perplexed, but I guess he must be intrigued. There's weird, again, timeline stuff with B and Roger and Malta where they're at Roger's house, and then B is in the Baroque apartment doing other things, and then they're back at Roger's house. It didn't really line up, but maybe that doesn't matter.
It lined up.
But the sort of coming and goings I found confusing.
So while this is happening and while they're getting the explosives together, Roger has his 15-year anniversary at work, where they give him the world's best Roger
Mug.
giant mug.
Yep.
Which I love when his boss pours an entire pot of coffee into it.
Into it, and then he drinks from it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So during this, B is talking to Niska through a website called Two of Us.
Yep.
Which is a dating website which does not exist.
Okay.
It's 2AVOSS.
Yeah.
Which
two of ass.
Two of Us.
Mm.
Two of Us.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Beatles song, Liverpool. It's another Liverpool reference. Niska logs on as Ken Boy, and B logs on as Äkta Människor 87.
And that's how they communicate.
They communicate.
They say they're going to meet at the side of the road again. Also, for B, so at this apartment that I guess she's broken into is a place to... Did you get why she's in that apartment?
Yeah. After the Roger and Malta and B have their meeting, Malta drives B home.
Oh, right. And he asks if he can walk her inside.
He asks if he can walk her inside.
So she's like you, but not like that.
Yeah. We see B in the apartment logging on to Two of Us to talk to Niska, and it's a very old lady apartment. At some point...
A soap opera is on.
Soap opera's on that she's watching. There's banging on the door, yelling for Grandma.
Which is when she leaves, but first she pulls out her laptop. She has this little robot USB that she copies some files onto. She copies
the firmware, which seems like the code.
This is the
code that they're looking for.
The secret code thing that was maybe in that box that Niska gave. It's maybe the hard drive that Jonas asks later of Silas, saying, "Did you find anything else? A hard drive, maybe?"
Yeah. So this is that data.
So she copies that data and then seals the little robot USB shut, puts it back in the box, puts the bow on top. And then when someone comes to the door saying, "Grandma," she walks past maybe Grandma's dead body and...
Oh, it's definitely Grandma's dead body.
And climbs out a window with a ready-made, tied-together rope of sheets.
Yeah.
She was ready to go.
She's ready to go.
So she just tosses that rope out the window and climbs down.
When the person's banging on the door to look for their grandma, they come with a locksmith, because the locksmith pushes some crazy equipment that I haven't seen.
I know, to open the door through the mail slot.
Yeah.
That was cool. There's been the phone call about the smell already, which maybe doesn't affect B.
It doesn't affect B because
she's a Hubot.
She's a Hubot.
So I feel like that's what was happening, where they were like, "We need to get in here because we don't know if Grandma's okay." And then B's like, "Well, I've been using this place for a few days. I'm outie."
It makes the scene where she stole the photo of the wedding couple a little unusual, because I thought she had like an apartment that she was building.
Yeah, like maybe she lives somewhere.
Or she probably lives somewhere.
But maybe she still just wants to do this work in various random places. Maybe she's kind of covering her tracks as she goes.
That's sort of the impression that I have.
Maybe she just has a thing for Baroque apartments where soap operas play.
Well, it's where Malta thinks she lives.
Right, so there's that.
So she needs a place. She can't take him to her actual home.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see where we're at.
I don't know. I'm following your lead on where to go.
Well, we can follow sort of the Leo and Max storyline, which this entire episode, for almost the entire thing, Max is still standing outside, not moving.
He's been told to wait.
And there's these two workers who they try to call the police, they try to call the Hubot service people.
And they're getting passed back and forth.
But the conversation that they're having, they're calling a third agency we're not sure who it is, who's going to send
finally
somebody.
Going to come pick him up, because he won't budge.
So they just put some pylons around him.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I don't know, he might be dangerous, maybe not. They're not too worried about it. They're drinking coffee.
Yeah, someone will get it.
Those guys are great.
They are cute.
Leo is, as far as we know, has been strangled by Luther and left for dead.
Yeah, who we now know Luther's name. We were calling him the Chuck Norris bot.
Yeah.
But he has a name. It's Luther.
His name is Luther. He has a tattoo and he wears hammer pants.
Sure does. And a buddy named Kira.
When we see Leo and Luther next, Luther is standing over passed out, drunk Silas.
Yeah.
Who blacked out to the point where he doesn't really remember what has happened, so we get some exposition from Luther filling us in.
Yeah.
That Jim was shot and that Luther strangled Leo and he put them in another room. There's blood all over the place. We meet another Hubot named Kira, and she's charging, so we get to see that like Hubot's overcharged and they get their buzz.
She maybe cuts her own hair.
Yeah, she has some great hair. She looks like what a child would do to a doll with some scissors.
Yes.
And then stops when they realize
when
it's
someone
not
stops
looking
them.
good. Yeah.
When someone's like, no, give me those.
Yeah. And she's resting her foot on Odie's body.
Yeah. Silas, gets up, gets the exposition, catches up to speed, remembers what's happening, goes out to get some things, and tells Luther to turn on Odie, see if he works. And Luther says, okay, I'll do that stuff. So Silas is gone, and Luther instructs Kira to come and watch him. Right, so he can, again, explain what he's doing. Because he deactivates the ID connection, makes a copy, deletes the tracking, and then transfers the ownership to Silas. He doesn't remove ownership, but he transfers it to Silas.
And he fixes a bunch of corrupted files.
Yeah.
And
were you
the actor who plays Odie, Alexander Stocks, does some of the best face blinking acting I think I've ever seen.
I loved all that face blinking as illustrating the reprogramming.
It was repairing of corrupted files.
The repairing, but also the restart, and then when he lifts the Asimov restrictions, were you pleased to hear the Asimov drop?
They actually mentioned the name dropping of Asimov. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a thing in this fictional place.
But I think that's Asimov's rules are pretty much. They're from the 40s and they've been They've applied to every sci-fi robot thing since.
But I just love how
which they're not actually Asimov's rules. They were actually developed by his editor, whose name is somewhere.
Oh really?
Yeah.
He gets all the credit. I just love it when shows make choices like that, where they'll the prime minister what they maintain from what's real and what's fictional. So that dating site is not real.
Right.
But Isaac Asimov is real. So the sort of picking and choosing and inventing and maintaining, I just always find those choices kind of fun.
So the Asimov's laws of robotics were actually written by John W. Campbell Jr., who was an editor at Astounding magazine.
Oh, see, that's just less catchy. So when Odie is kind of restarted after this process, he opens his eyes and he says, "Are you Silas?" Because he's instantly looking for his owner.
And his voice is fixed.
Yeah.
Well, there's a point right after Luther says to Kira, "Now I run the program that removes the Asimov restrictions." Odie's talking the whole time. He's calling out Leonard's name.
Yeah.
And he's still got that little screech, the little grind to his voice until they remove the Asimov restrictions.
It's almost like a vocoder. It sounds a little bit to me. And then his voice is fixed. He asks for Silas, and Luther says he'll be back. And he looks at Kira, and he says, what's your name? And nice to meet you. And I think he kind of eyes her. And
she eyes him.
And when she steps away, Luther kind of gives a oh yeah, you just met Kira. Which then I wondered, have we seen Hubots have relationships with each other? Bo and Rick are friends, but have we seen, do Hubots sleep with each other? Do they fall for each other?
I don't know.
I guess I was wondering about attraction. I felt in that moment that Odie says, "Nice to meet you," and they look at each other. That I was like, "Oh, you go get her, Odie. You go."
And we know that Hubots get some sort of feeling because they keep charging. The
ones
they
enjoy
that are free
the overcharging.
Enjoy the overcharging. That's I think the closest we've seen to a feeling.
Maybe.
Is the overcharging.
Silas comes back.
Odie says, "Are you Silas? Pleased to meet you." Holds out his hand. Silas just hands him a chainsaw.
Yes.
And then we see the creepiest moment with Odie, who we know we've seen the whole time.
We've liked him so much.
But everything's been Hitchcock with the Vera, Leonard, and Odie.
Yes.
This is our Norman Bates moment, and he starts cutting up bodies.
Yep.
They do mention that Silas says to Luther, he instructs Luther to stay clean and let Odie do all the work, then we'll dump the bastard, referring to Odie. So Odie is going to be just thrown away.
Yeah, they're just using him to do this, and then they're going to ditch him.
Until Odie is looking over Leo's body and says, "This one has an outlet." Silas freaks out. He pulls out the little cable that Leo keeps with him.
Yep. And Leo wakes up. So he pulls out the cable and they plug him in. To find out like what is up with this.
Yeah.
What is
this?
And they do have that conversation when Leo does wake up and Silas yells at him, says, "What the hell are you?"
Yeah.
And Leo says, "I don't know." And Silas is like, "You're the living dead. You're a zombie. Like, what is this?" Leo's saying, "Just let me go. I won't ever come back."
Right. Which is never going to happen.
Right.
Silas
Although
does...
Luther later says, "Oh, he said he'd leave. He won't come back." And Silas says, "All humans lie." And Leo has a flashback.
Right. What was that flashback?
It's flashback to 10-year-old Leo being operated on. The doctor is there.
Right.
So, because last time I wasn't clear that the doctor had left with them, and you said yes. And once again, you were right.
I'm paying attention.
You're paying attention. So, it's David Eicher, that doctor, whose name we just looked up and now I can't remember, and Mimi in an operating room, and 10-year-old Leo's head is like carved into.
Yeah, they cut part of his skull off, and they put
and a chunk of his brain out. Like and they're operating on him. So we see a bit of that, as far as what maybe was done to young Leo.
And while they're operating on young Leo, there's a handoff between the doctor and David Eicher, where the technology stuff happens. And they move on, and then we see what we already know.
Yep.
That Leo has robot parts.
Yep, Leo has robot parts. Should we keep going with these guys? I guess so. So at some point, Silas decides, okay, fuck it, we're just going to cut up Leo. This is fucked. That we have to get rid of him. And
he's not going to cut him up, but they want to tie
Odie's trying to start the chainsaw, and then Luther takes it from him. Luther's like, let me do it. They're approaching Leo with the chainsaw, and then there's a knock at the door.
It's still back to Odie. Luther just starts up the chainsaw and gives it back.
No, I think he ends up being the one approaching. I feel like I actually see Odie hesitate, and I was like, oh, is this because it's another Hubot and he doesn't want to harm another Hubot? I don't know. But I think it's Luther that actually approaches him. But because then there's a knock at the door, and Silas says, "Wait, stop!" And Luther looks over, which I was like, "Really? You heard that over the chain? You're holding a running chainsaw. Nick of time. Turn it off." And Jonas comes in.
Well, they have good hearing, as we know from...
That's true.
When Vera was sold to Hans, one of the features that Vera had was she had adjustable hearing.
Right, and Luther
and adjustable vocal
may
levels.
well have excellent hearing.
Yeah.
Jonas comes in and is demanding to know where Silas got Mimi from.
Yeah.
Where did you find her? Did you find her in the woods? Was it by the murder?
Right.
Did you get a hard drive as well?
And Silas comes clean. He doesn't hide anything.
Yeah, he doesn't hide it. And Jonas says, if anyone asks, I didn't buy her, and then I won't tell anyone about what you're doing here. Because there's blood on the floor. Odie's standing there covered in blood.
Yeah, Jonas he doesn't care what goes on. He's worried about himself. That's it. Wants to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. Doesn't want to be caught up in anything other than what he's already caught up in.
Mm-hmm. And in that window, Leo has escaped. He's climbed out a window.
Oh, he smashed through a door.
Okay, smashed through a door. So Jonas showing up bought him the time.
When I say that, it sounds like he just did some sort of Incredible Hulk Kool-Aid Man smashing through a door. He broke a window so he could reach and unlock a door.
Yes, and is running through the streets. I mean, he's really injured. He's tripping and he's hurting, and he's at the same time we see that Max is just about to get picked up by whatever service shows up and picks up your lost, like the SPCA. I don't know. Leo gets there just in time. Max punches these guys out. Leo grabs the taser and tases the guys, and he's like, "Come on, we gotta hurry." And they head to Hubot Mart.
Right. Did you, Leo, who is played by Andreas Wilson, he was in a movie in 2003 called Evil, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. It did not win, but
it's an honor just to be nominated.
Before that, he was a
How old's that guy?
I'm not sure. He's
must
pretty
have been young in that film.
He was a male model
for
Abercrombie and Fitch, I think.
I can see that.
Yeah.
He's a bit chiseled, a little bit rugged.
He's looked terrible.
I think he's still attractive.
He looks like he
man.
hasn't slept in a few years.
Yeah. He has looked really rough all the time. You're absolutely right. The man could use some sleep and perhaps a day at the spa.
Maybe that's where they're headed next.
It's on the list.
We're going to see, the next episode will just be Leo and Max at a spa. So they recover and they head to Hubotmer.
Yeah.
Which is where...
Should we come back to that?
Well, that's where Roger and Malta
are there.
Outside.
They're ready to plant the bomb. And Leo sneaks in the back. And I guess Jonas is working late. Like, Hubotmer is closed. But do you think that Jonas and Leo already know each other?
Do Jonas and Leo already know each other?
Their dads know each other. And I wondered in the scene, I think it could be possible. It could also be that they've never met before. But the way he walks in, and Jonas is just like, hey. And he's like, you know the Hubot I'm looking for? And he's like, yeah. And Max sort of has to threaten him. But he just very quickly, he looks up the records. He tells him the name. I mean, he's under a bit of duress. But he's also he's not surprised that Leo is there. No, and even when Leo says, give me your keys, he's like, I don't. And then he's like, all right. I almost felt like, were they like boyhood friends? It could be like, fine, take the keys. We're on opposite sides of the camp, but
they're about the same age, and if their fathers knew each other.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't even think of that. There's not a moment where Jonas says, who the fuck are you and why are you here?
Yeah.
It's just like he walks in with Max, who is the cutest heavy. He's the muscle. He's the muscle,
but he maintains his doughy eyes at all times.
He does.
A doughy-eyed muscle man.
Jonas is clearly intimidated by Max, he's a bigger guy.
Kind of want to cuddle.
He does look very cuddly.
But he might squeeze the life out of you because he's very strong.
Oh, he's very strong. So I just found that very cute.
It is cute.
When Leo walks into the office, Silas reaches for the phone. I don't know who he's going to call.
Who are you going to call? No. I'm sorry.
That has nothing
Impossible not to... Yeah, not going to. He reaches for the phone. Right, is he going to call the cops? But he's he is easily swayed to cooperate. But Leo gets the keys. He instructs Max to tie Jonas up, and he goes outside. Roger has just planted the bomb. They have just activated it with the cell phone. Him and Malta. They are waiting for something to happen. And Roger sees someone leaving the building. He's like, someone's coming.
Is there I guess... Malta and B have been saying the whole time to Roger, and I think Malta reiterates it at the end that Roger's going to be a hero and that this bomb that they're setting is going to change everything. It's going to change the way people see Hubots, the real humans movement. It's a big bomb, big briefcase bomb, equivalent to 220 pounds of TNT.
Yeah.
Anyway, Roger, they set the bomb off.
And Roger, who has expressed concern for people, is worried that he sees someone. He's assuming the place is empty, and when he sees someone coming out, he's like, oh, shit. The bomb goes off. It blows Leo through the air. He hits the car. Roger, I think, is shocked by the experience. Malta's cracking up, and Roger is like...
freaking out.
Yeah, let's get out of here. Leo... has only a second to maybe process that Max probably just got blown to bits along with Jonas and just gets himself to the car and also drives off.
I don't think Leo wants to kill anybody.
No.
For sure. And I think he would probably be quite upset with Niska if he knew that she was killing these people. And I don't know if he even knows.
Do you think he has the qualms about killing? Because we had this conversation last week about... him turning off the safety in Jane Hourglass, and that she was able to kill her owner.
Unless he's not aware of what
effect.
This code does.
No, I think he's aware.
The code was written by David Eicher.
Right.
And Leo just has it, and we know he knows how to use code, but we don't know that he knows how to use code in the way that... I don't know. Maybe. Maybe he doesn't. He definitely doesn't want Max killed.
No, he doesn't want Max killed, and he maybe didn't want Jonas killed. He just didn't want Jonas to come after them.
And the bomb was set off... Where did they place the bomb?
At the front doors.
The front doors. And Jonas's office is a little bit inside
Maybe
of
at the
it.
back. He might be safe. We don't know.
Maybe we will see Max come out of the fire as like a metal skeleton.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just wander around. We'll see some Terminator style Max.
I think it's possible.
So, and then the episode ends with...
The episode ends on Mimi. There's a little bit with the rogues. Niska and Fred have another conversation, but it's repeating the conversation they had last time. Although Niska displays some very poor communication, where she's like, "We are having a discussion." I was like, "Ladies, this is not a discussion."
She is ready to bring in the other Hubots against Fred.
She's ready to create a divide. It doesn't happen. She sneaks around the house.
See her creep on.
She creeps on Ava and Asa, who are getting it on. The Niska stuff is just reiterating what we already know, except the scene where once B and her meet on the side of the road, B takes her to Roger's house. We mentioned this earlier, and they have this conversation. And Niska's saying, "How long will it take?" And B says, "No more than a week, and then you can come." And Niska says, "What about the other one? I'll take care of it." Like, are they going to move into Roger's house? Like, what's the deal?
I don't know. No, that was...
Any guesses?
I watched that scene a couple of times just to try and figure out...
what they're talking about?
Malta she's going to take care of him in the get rid of him sense.
Yeah.
And Roger...
Not in the loving, I'll support you and care for you sense.
Yeah. Not in the loving...
Which sometimes people mean when they say, "I'll take care of you."
I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They either mean they're going to kill you.
I'll take care of Malta. Like his mother might.
Right.
And Roger, it seems like they are going to set him up as the patsy for...
This crime.
The thing that I don't get is perhaps what this romantic relationship that B is trying to establish between Roger, or at least the flirty aspect. Well, she's going to be the one on the case. We learned that she's on duty that night. So she's going to be first on the scene.
Right.
And she's going to control the investigation.
That's what she says.
That's what she said.
That's what she tells Roger and Malta.
But she's playing Roger for something else. She's building up this flirty relationship, which serves no practical purpose for her.
No. So
I suspect that Roger's going to play some other role as this goes forward beyond the bombing. What that is, I couldn't even guess.
Yeah, I was curious about what they were planning there. We don't know, but something's happening at Roger's house.
Maybe B and Roger are going to move in together.
And then she's going to invite all her friends over.
Yeah.
But he would know they're Hubots. It's a whole spin-off series.
Yeah. It'll be like All in the Family.
It'll be Roger. Yeah.
Roger will sit in his armchair.
Roger and B.
And say anti-Hubot things, while everyone around him is very progressive.
Yeah. And
they will, at the opening of every episode, Roger and B will sing in Swedish. These are the
at
days.
A piano. The Swedish version of These Are the Days. Yeah, I think that show is in pre-production. Those were the days.
That's the one. I couldn't think of the melody. Google translate that song into Swedish and record a version.
I will do that for you.
Thank you. Wonder if I can get my screech down.
I think you could.
Okay.
Oh, so you want to do it as a duet?
No, well, maybe that's a bad idea.
I'll figure it out first, and then you can learn the parts.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So the very last scene of this episode is Leo in the car heading towards the Engman's house, and Matilda and Mimi are looking across from each other. She has restarted. Matilda has switched Anita back to Mimi.
Yeah.
And she turns on her cell phone and hits record. And she says, "What is your name?" And she says, "My name is Mimi." She says, "What's the tattoo?" Mimi says, "It shows that I'm a child of David Eicher." And Matilda says, "David..." She goes, "David Eicher.
Our liberator."
Cut.
Yeah. There should have been that music. I think it just stops. Oh, no, it does. Richard Morgan's music.
Yep. And it cuts to the credits.
Yeah.
Our liberator.
I think that we can maybe add a little bit of his music in as editorial fair use.
You think so? I think we could just use these two.
Well,
that's our cover
I'm going to have to
version
remember
of
what
it.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are ending with We are ending with Bells in the Distance, which seems like a good time to end it. So we can talk about the usual things where people can reach us. They can reach us through cyborgversusrobot.com. You can find us on Facebook. They can write to us at cyborgversusrobot@gmail.com to comment and ask questions about the show, which no one has done yet.
Or provide insight for all the things that we are
getting wrong.
You could tell us. You could tell us that we got it wrong. And Twitter at cyborgversusrobot.
Now, do you want to go eat some brunch?
Yeah, let's go brunch.
Okay.